The framework that has held global security together for decades is under pressure. The certainty of who protects Europe and how that protection is guaranteed is facing its most significant challenge since the end of the Cold War. Since 1949, the answer to European security was straightforward: NATO. Through this alliance, the United States acted as a continental shield, providing a military guarantee intended to deter any major invasion. This arrangement relied on a specific technical mechanism. The United States deployed its own nuclear weapons directly to 5 countries: Belgium, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. These weapons remained under American custody, but their presence was the core of the alliance. The strategy was built on the threat of a massive counterstrike. If Russia attacked a European ally, the United States was committed to launching its own nuclear arsenal in response. For over 50 years, this meant the safety of the European continent depended on Washington's willingness to risk its own territory in a nuclear exchange. That long-standing guarantee has recently been called into question. A shift in American political rhetoric has signaled to Europe that the old certainties may no longer be absolute. American leadership has become increasingly vocal about defense spending, arguing that NATO allies have failed to meet their financial obligations or provide support in standalone conflicts, such as the ongoing tensions with Iran. This political tension reflects a broader strategic change. The United States is actively reallocating its military resources toward the Indo-Pacific, prioritizing its competition with China over its traditional role in Europe. This withdrawal of focus creates a security gap in Europe, a space that is now being tested by a heavily mobilized Russian military. Paris is now moving to fill this space. President Emmanuel Macron is positioning France as the new security guarantor for the continent, offering a European alternative to American protection. France carries the weight necessary for this role. It is currently the only member of the European Union with a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. France also maintains its own independent nuclear arsenal. It is now inviting neighboring nations to move under a French nuclear umbrella, promising to use these weapons to deter threats against its allies. Norway has become the most recent nation to explore this shift. While Norway has historically been a symbol of peace and diplomatic stability, its leadership is now looking toward Paris for a new layer of protection. This signals a new era for Norway. A nation that has long relied on its wealth and neutrality is now concluding that localized nuclear deterrence is its best path to long-term survival. Ultimately, Norway's deep concern is rooted in its geography. It shares a direct 200-kilometer land border with Russia, a boundary that has become increasingly tense as regional conflicts escalate. The math behind this fear is stark. Norway's population of 5.5 million and its modest military are dwarfed by the sheer density of Russian forces stationed just across the border. But we must remember, Norway is not acting alone. Their move toward French protection is part of a wider trend that has seen 9 nations join this new deterrence framework. The roster includes the UK, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, Greece, the Netherlands, Poland, and Sweden. Together, they form a security bloc across the European theater. In return for extending its nuclear shield, France secures long-term access to Norway's massive energy exports to power its economy. Ultimately, this relationship represents a strategic trade-off. France is exchanging the security of its nuclear arsenal for increased economic leverage and a more dominant voice in European affairs. As the U.S. focus moves elsewhere, Paris is gaining significant weight as a decision-making center for European policy. This shift has consequences far beyond Europe. For strategic partners like India, a more influential France provides a new gateway into the European market. India and France have already built a deep defense relationship. India's continued purchase of advanced fighter jets and cooperation on nuclear energy projects suggests a partnership that will only grow as France's influence expands. As France becomes a more central figure in European defense, its partners stand to benefit from more direct and stable trade relations across the continent. We are witnessing a transition in how power is projected globally. As the American military focus shifts toward the Pacific, the responsibility for European security is increasingly moving toward a new center of gravity in Paris.